In the last tutorial, we set up the rotoscopes for this character that we're going to build. There were a few things that I neglected to do, so we'll do those now. So we're going to go to Objects, right-click, and say Import Model. Open up the model that you saved before, will_01. Now you can zoom out here and look at this. One thing that I neglected to do is if you look at the rotoscopes here, you can click on them and into Properties you can tell it to be transparent to a certain point. So I'm going to choose 75%. Well, maybe not that much. Let's go to 65%. That way you can still see it, but it's very faint. Let's go to this one too and say 65%, and then this one too and say 65%. That way, when I go to my front and side views, you can see how I can zoom in and I can still see what I'm doing, but I'll be able to see where I'm drawing splines over the top. One thing I did do is I went into Tools, Customize, and I changed the appearance of the objects from white, like this, just to a light gray. That way it's not quite as bright as it was before. It's just a personal preference. You can do whatever you'd like to do. So first what I'm going to start out with is to create this torso. And I want a cross section that I can use in the front and on the side. So first of all, I'm going to hit the A key, and then I'm going to start laying out this spline that'll go in this direction. So I'm going to start here. And right now I'm just kind of putting in splines or CPs where I think I might need them. I can always add other ones in later, so I right click. So there's my kind of cross section for my character here that I'll call Will. So that's the first thing I do is I set down that cross section. Now one thing you'll learn quite frequently in Animation Master is that you want to save your model frequently, because even though this is a wonderful program, it has its bugs, and one of them is crashing unexpectedly. So I'm going to right click in here, say Save As, Will02. Okay, so now whenever we need to save, we just right click and say Save. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my front view by hitting 2 on the numpad, and you can see how that's lined up with this rotoscope. So now I'm going to draw this side right here. What I want to do is, first of all, I want to start up here at the neck, come down here, do another one here, I can zoom in and make sure I'm following my rotoscope here. Looks pretty good. So now I can tumble into that and see where it's at. Now if I go into my side view, you'll see that it goes straight up the side. So now what I'm going to do is take each of these points and hold down the 3 key while I move it, and move it into position here. So it goes down the middle of the body. Okay, it's almost done. Okay, so now you can see here what the wireframe looks like. I'm going to select one just so you can rotate around it. Very simple so far, but just kind of laying out what I want to do here. So that's mainly how I create the torso. I like to lay out a few splines and I can see where I'm going. Some people may just like to lathe and then adjust the points. We can do that also by just basically creating a curve. So let's do this. Let's select this and lock it. Actually unlock that. So anyways, you can lathe it around if you want and then move the splines in. I like to work like this. What I'm going to do now is start to kind of connect things as I think they should. I'm going to start connecting these splines in here, and I've got one right here that I need for the definition of the shoulder, so I'm actually just going to split this one and this one and then attach between these. Now you can see sometimes it doesn't like to do it exactly well. I'll just delete that. Just highlight this one, hit Shift K that will detach it. You can click to attach it there and then just delete that one. Then I'm going to go attach here. Looks like we need another one right here. Looks like this one. Now remember, this is just a very generic way of starting out. Getting a shape down, I will be cutting and doing all kinds of things to this shape as I go. Now this especially, this is a separate or a different part of what I want to do. I'm going to have to put a leg right here, and I'm kind of trying to plan ahead of how I'm going to do it. So what I want to do is actually go into the side view here, delete these, delete this, and then draw a spline that will match these control points like this. Now you may ask, what is that for? Well, that's actually going to be the beginning of my leg. So I'm going to select that spline by hitting the comma key, go into my front view, and then also hit this lock. That means that the only one that I can manipulate is that one. I can't manipulate anything else here. So now you can see how that works. I'm going to go into my front view, and then I'm going to start moving this. Hold down 1. Start moving these to match with the curvature of my leg. This is going to be the butt, so it's going to go out a little further. This gives me kind of the shape of the pelvis that I want, and it will give me an opportunity to extrude down from the leg. So I'm actually going to bring these down a little bit, just so that they're not, it's not such a drastic shape. It's more gentle curve. Actually bring these down here too. Okay, so now you can see how it's kind of set up there for the leg. Now what I can do is I can unlock this, and then I can start to attach things. So I'm going to attach this one, and I'm going to go across here. Actually, what I want to do is split this right here. So I'm going to go A, and attach right there. And these, I'm going to go across there. This one I'm going to go across to here. This one right here. This one right here. This one here. And this one here. And this one, I'm just going to go across to here. So now you can see if I go into shaded mode, these are flipped right here, so I'm just going to select basically everything right here. If you hit Shift G, that will go into marquee select lasso mode, and you can select that way too. So I'm just going to flip those by hitting F. Okay, so now I've got this kind of generic shape. Go into my side view here, make sure that they match with what we're doing here. Okay. So I've got kind of this pelvis looking thing here. Well, now what I want to do is I want to actually go down and split all these so that I can add a little bit more definition. So I'm going to go Y. I'm just going to hit Y as I go down these, and it'll split them in half. Actually, I don't want this one. I'm going to hook it off so it actually doesn't have to have all that geometry. Hit Shift Z if you ever run into a time when you've tumbled into a view that you can't see anything. Just hit Shift Z and it will center everything for you. So now I can just kind of work my way down these. And then I'm going to hook it off right here, so I take this one I just left and I hook it right there. And I take this one. Oops, missed it there. Reattach it. Just right there, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to hook it. So I leave one dangling and I just go over here and right click on it. So there we go. So now I've got two 5-point patches right here. So I'm going to select, oops, so I'm going to select this one, deselect that 1 point, and create it and flip it, and then select this 5-point patch right here, create it. Okay, so now I've got kind of this angular body look. I'm going to go to my front view and make sure that I'm following my rotoscope. That thin of a waist. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go into my side view, my 6 view, and actually pull these out a little more so that they are creating more of a curvature of the chest. Let's make sure I'm following my rotoscope here. Let's actually move this one up here. This is the beauty of working in splines, is you can just kind of place them however you'd like to and see what the result is without having to do subdivision surfaces or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, I love working in subdivision surfaces. I think it's amazing what you can do with a really low poly mesh. But there's something to working in splines. It's really, really nice. The only problem that you run into occasionally is the pinching, and you'll see that as we continue to model this. So move this out, and this out. You can see now here at my 5-point patch, I'm getting kind of a weird kind of arc right here. So what I'm just going to kind of start sculpting this a little bit so it's not so angular. Now you can move away from your rotoscope just slightly if you want to. You can do kind of anything you want to. I'm kind of keeping with my rotoscope here. As much as I can, but there are situations where I want a little more definition in a certain place. I want to move some splines around. I don't want my splines moving up and down so much in this diagonal direction. I want to kind of level them out. So look over here, go into my wireframe mode, start to see it a little better. Go around this way. So now you can see how this torso is starting to take shape. So it's a little more rounded now, and I can start to place these a little better. Now one thing I might think about is, instead of going across right here, going up, so that the spline will continue down the leg, and I think I want to do that. So I'm actually going to delete that, and I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to subdivide this with Y, and then I'm just going to attach here, and attach here, and then end off right there and hook it. And do the same thing here, 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 and then just add a hook. So now I've got these 5-point patches that I need to create. So I'll create it and flip it, and then create this one. So now I've got a little better deformation there. It's not quite so drastic, and these splines are going to move down the leg, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to go into my side view. I actually want these to come in a little more right there. Yeah. Now at this point, don't worry about making it look female or male or however you want to do it. You know, big hips, small hips. The best thing to do is kind of design how you want your topology to work, or the way your geometry works before you ever start putting in details, because when you put in details you want your main topology working correctly. So that's what I'm doing here. Kind of looks like maybe female hips or something like that. I think it's mainly because this kind of looks like a bikini bottom or something. Oops. But you'll see as we get into it how it'll just turn into a leg. So let's finish off this top here. Let's go. Now remember what I said, because of continuity I have to create a spline. Oops. That will allow me to keep continuity around this spline right here. So to do this and then delete these, and that way I've kept my continuity this way. Now I'm going to just attach in right here and right here, and I'm going to round that out a bit and this a bit. And if I go to my top view, kind of see where I'm not rounding enough. Here. Now I'm going to add in an arm here, and so that it'll round it out quite a bit. But as you can see right now, this is the basics for the torso. I'm just working in 1/2 of a model because I can always duplicate that half and take a look at it, and that's what I'll do right here. So before I go any further, just to make sure I've done this, I want to just save this as will_02, and then I can select the whole thing, hit copy, paste, and before you do anything, go over to pivot in your properties panel, and under X turn it to 0, and then you can right click on what you've already highlighted and say flip X-axis. So there's a mirrored version of my body right there. And since these 2 points, or these 2 pieces aren't connected, I can select just a piece of there, hit the / key, and then hit delete. And then I can see what I've still got. So there's the basics of the torso, creating the torso. I can go in here and finesse, you know, the points however I'd like them to go, so that they're not quite as curved. I can straighten out some edges. I can kind of decide on, I want a bigger shoulder blade back here, so I'm going to pull it out a little more. We'll add in some detail later, but this character won't have a whole lot of detail in them. It's nice to be able to look at them at full 360 degrees so you can kind of see what you're doing. But once again, if you want to duplicate it, you just select the whole thing, hit copy, paste, and then over in your properties, make sure X is set to 0 in the pivot section, and then just flip X-axis. And then you can see here what it'll look like. That's pretty much what I want it to look like. So I'm going to go back to my front view, select this piece, / and delete. And then I'm going to save my object, and that's it for the torso.